Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 122 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on July 19th, 2022. How's everyone doing? Yeah, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. I do appreciate it. I had a bit of a recharge this weekend. I was outside both days setting up some range apparatus, and I zeroed the old Night Force ATACR 1-8 on the SCAR. Shot about 120 rounds through the gun at various distances at steel. And, in general, I had a grand old time, I have to say. Yeah, it was hot, but also be a man, So, we'll see if we have time to get into that on today's episode. I'm going to shorten some of this ad read stuff up front here, trying to compress this. I'm going to try to streamline things. We'll see how it goes. The J Situation Podcast is proudly sponsored by Silencer Shop. That's right. You can use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically, and in turn, you cut down on errors. You simplify your silencer purchasing process. That's right, you get a money-back guarantee. It's great. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors. It's just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. Thanks, they do help with this podcast. Also, check out True Shot Gun Club out of Arizona, if you would. If you click the link in the show notes that I put there, or on pewscience.com/podcast, it'll take you to their website. If you buy ammo using that link, it helps the podcast and it helps Pew Science. Done. If you also want to join their A-Zone Club and get free shipping on all of your ammo for a whole year, you can use code word Pew Science at checkout and you get $20 off that membership. That's right. You win, they win. You help the podcast. That's right. I hope it helps you. And lastly, and probably most importantly, this podcast is sponsored by Pew Science, pushing the silencer industry forward one test at a time. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It is the simplest and the most accurate hearing safe ratings for your suppressed small arms based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot. That's right, from before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. Okay? Now, the suppression rate is in Section 5 of the Silencer Sound Standard. There are also reviews in Section 6 of the Standard. And finally, in Section 7, you have the rankings table. It's a simple database tool with which you can sort and filter all the public test results. When you find something you like, click the links in the table, and it'll take you back to Section 6 where you can look at the most in-depth silencer data in the world. That's right. And as always, if you are a manufacturer and you would like to use Pew Science for private testing and consulting services, there's a form on the website with which you can submit that inquiry. Any contact information you submit and all test data we generate will be held in strict confidence, unless, of course, you want to release it to the public, in which case I can help you do that. That's right. You can support this podcast, Pew Science, and all the testing I do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. There's a donate feature on the website too. It's on the review page. It's on the podcast page. Every little bit helps. And something that is free and doesn't cost you anything, please try to give a good rating on iTunes or Spotify for the podcast. It lets other folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. And through that, we can normalize the use of suppressed small arms. Got 3 topics for you today. That's right. They might be long. Topic 1, Sound Signature Review 681. The Otter Creek Labs Hydrogen-L on supersonic 308 bolt action. Technical discussion. We'll talk about the Otter Creek Labs today. Topic 2, the FN SCAR 17 SCQC 308. Play date. I had a play date. I had fun. PEW Science SCAR Project update number 4. Already? Yes. A short but cursory update for you. And finally, topic 3. I just want to thank all of you for your patience during this busy time. Your PEW Science member questions and client requests are answered in the order received. How's that for an official response? I appreciate you. Okay, we're going to move into topic 1 at a time of 4 minutes and 19 seconds. Oh my goodness, that's a record. I bet you I can cut it down even shorter. We're cooking. That's right. Topic 1, Sound Signature Review 681. The Otter Creek Labs Hydrogen-L on supersonic 308 bolt action. Technical discussion, and for those of you just tuning in, usually always the week after I release a review, I will go into the technical discussion and walk you through that review personally on the podcast, right here, just the following week. So I do the review, and the next week I talk about it with you. So If you don't like to read, which, only nerds read books. No, just kidding. Reading's good. No, but if it helps you, I think it helps a lot of people. So that's why I do this verbally as well as written. I think that's good. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up. So I want to ask you something though. Did this come out of left field? Maybe. On the one hand, some of you folks have heard of Otter Creek Labs. On the other hand, many people haven't. And in the silencer world, they are but only one of a significant amount of small businesses throwing their hat into the ring. You guys may not see it, but there are quite a lot of these companies popping up everywhere. And there are a lot. But as the old saying goes, the cream does rise to the top many times. And some of these smaller manufacturers are doing some things that cause many in the industry to take notice. And I would say, in my opinion, Otter Creek Labs is one of those manufacturers. They are. And you can tell they're new, but the performance is significant, and that's worth speaking about. And since I run PEW Science, it's literally all I speak about in the reviews is the performance. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's go through the review together. I'm going to pull up the member review right now on pewscience.com. And okay. Sound Signature Review 681. We're past 80 articles, guys. We'll be at 100 before you know it. That's crazy. What am I doing? What have I done? Bottom line up front, 49.8 composite suppression rating on the 20-inch bolt action 308, 39.4 at the muzzle, 49.1 at the ear. That's right. Boy, howdy. This silencer's scraping that 50 zone, isn't it? Ooh, it is. And it's doing it on a supersonic 308 bolt action, man. Damn. It's a big deal. When you get a suppression rating like this on a bolt action 308, it's Quiet Town, USA, population U. That's right. Hydrogen-L is here to make a statement, apparently. And like the suppression rating shows, it does. It does. It definitely does. Guys, this is a Hyperion and a Nomad L and an Enticer L territory. Okay, with those silencers, the Hydrogen L forms the top four. Was it the top four? Can I count? Yeah. Hyperion, Nomad L, Enticer. Yeah. Top four on Supersonic 308. Holistic performance. Outside of length or weight or diameter, forget it. Just looking at the suppression rating, getting down to brass tacks, the composite rating, the holistic sound signature performance on the system. These four silencers are absolutely wrecking shop. Now, does that mean the Hydrogen-L is as good a silencer as the CGS Hyperion, or is a Hyperion as good as a Nomad L, or is a Nomad L as good as an Enticer L? Well, no, it doesn't mean that at all. Okay? The suppression rating is not a measure of whether or not a silencer is good. At all. The suppression rating, which is tied to a weapon system, tells you the hearing damage risk of the system. That's it. Okay? That's it. So, please, listen very carefully when I say this. To the people I see online quoting PEW Science reviews and saying, PEW Science says that X silencer is good, or PEW Science really likes this silencer. If I say I like it on this podcast, fine. If I say a silencer is good on this podcast, fine. But never, ever, ever have I ever written anything like that in a sound signature review on pewscience.com. Never. There's 81 articles on that website. I have never written anything like that before. Okay? And the suppression rating is literally defined on the website in excruciating detail. And in fact, in every single review, right under that huge graphic with a big old number at the top of the page, if you scroll just a little bit down, there's another colored graphic with a dose chart, and that's what you use. That's it. Okay? So don't make it more than it is. You feel me? There's a rating. The rating is what it is. The rating is, and people get so bent out of shape about it too. It's like, guys, just it is what it is. it's the answer, and that's it. So don't, turn it into a sporting event. Now, if you want to speak about certain features of a silencer and factors other than sound signature in a weapon system, fine. And I think that's super important, actually. It is. And I mentioned those factors in the ranking page in section 7. You can see the 9 factors at the top of the page, right? The 9 factors. I should read them because there's probably a lot of new people listening. Hold up. Let me open the rankings in a new tab here. I'm going to open at the top of the page in the ranking section, host weapon characteristics, cartridge, ammunition type, accuracy, influence on the host weapon, flow restriction or back pressure, durability, maintenance factors, total weight and size envelope, sound signature suppression, flash signature suppression. 9 things. Okay. But when you go to the rankings table in the ranking section, that's section 7.1, suppression rating rankings. That's only one of the 9 factors. Okay, it's all in black and white. Like literally, I write the website in black and white. It's literally right there. So, yeah. So I feel like I shouldn't have to say all that, but because if people would just read and look at the 2 color-coded charts at the top of every review, that's it. It's easy. But I understand we got a lot of new people looking at this data, and the traffic to a website is very heavy. So I get it. I hope this information helps people out there educate others. When people start getting into pissing matches using the data, remember, the data's powerful. It is, but you need to know how to use it. Don't be fooled. Okay, now, how is the hydrogen doing so well? Well, let's look at how it works. Yeah, for that, we can go to one of our favorite ways to do so, the fingerprint. That's right. Let's look at the sound signature of the first shot. It's easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's right in the review. If you scroll down all the way to figure 1, that's the first shot in early time, 1 meter left of the muzzle, or end cap. 1 meter left of the silencer end cap in early time. That's right, figure 1. Now, you can click it to make it bigger. That's the magic of pewscience.com. It's not really that great. Right away, you should see something that you have seen before. When you look at this figure, extreme sound pressure reduction. Right away, this is Omega Zone 7, my friends. Extreme flow restriction. Look at it. It's right there. Look, internal combustion. Typical. Okay? What is that? What does that even mean when I say internal combustion? What does that mean? Well, the precursor flow enters the silencer, the bullet enters the silencer, the muzzle blast pushing the bullet enters the silencer. You get that. And, the walls of the silencer conduct sound really, really well. The sound travels through that, and you pick it up on the mic before the bullet even comes out. Okay? Bullet shock. That's easy to see. And then all of a sudden, the jetting gets taken down to super low amplitude here. Yeah, for a while. In fact, if you look at the annotation in figure 1, it isn't until later time that the pressure comes back up to around 138.5 decibels or so. It's a little wild how long it takes. I actually do, if you click off of there, like if you want to take a quick detour, because I referenced this, if you go to figure 3B, if you want to scroll down just and cheat a little bit, if you go to 3B, you can actually see, as noted, you can see when the latent jetting peaks with shot 1, 138.5 dB right there. It takes over 3 milliseconds. It takes over 3 milliseconds for that higher pressure to start venting. Now, in firearm combustion, or not start venting, but to reach that peak venting, what was I going to say? Oh, right. In firearm combustion, that's a very long time, 3 milliseconds, And when you look at figure 3A, you back up a figure here. When you look at figure 3A, the holistic muzzle pressure signatures of all 5 shots overlaid on each other, you can see that. Look how long it takes to blow down. It's almost like an exponential curve, isn't it? It's very interesting. It's a blowdown of a pressure vessel. That's what you're seeing there. Yeah. The Hydrogen-L is a gas trap. It traps gas. Yeah. And if you want more proof that it does that, if you want more proof, look at figure 4A. This is the great part about all this. If you look at 4A, look at the initial slopes of the impulse waveforms. Look at them. Notice anything interesting when you look at, like, just, you can click on it, make it bigger if you want. It's a little bit, sometimes it's counterintuitive for people to look at slopes, but they're super low amplitude and they really take a while to ramp. You got to look at how kind of, I guess you could call these, you could call this shallow. Okay. Now, notice how the FRP, the first round pop, that is the first shot. When I say first round pop, I don't mean part of the first shot. I mean the entire first shot. So that's what first round pop is, because a pop is a signature. It's not a peak. Okay. I know some people miss that and they talk about it and they're like, oh, well, first round pop is this. And it's like, no. First round pop's not 1D, like a decibel. No, the first round pop is the entire first shot. So when you look at the impulse from the entire first shot, notice how it ramps up to a maximum, like 3 to 4 milliseconds after bullet shock, approximately, right? Right. And so that's consistent. This figure 4A, it's impulse-based, and it's consistent. It's consistent with what I told you about the latent pressure development, isn't it? That's right. That's data pedigree. You see how this all fits together? I mean, they're the same physics. It's just expressed in pressure space and impulse space. It's the same physics. Okay, that's data pedigree. And that's why every single engineer in the science community and the weapons companies knows this data is right. Because it is what it is. You can't, you're not cutting corners here. I'm showing both the pressure and the impulse. So the data pedigree is irrefutable. It's the most consistent collection of science data ever published in the history of small arms. And that's why we know the Hydrogen-L does what it does. We know it's quiet. We know it's quiet. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's quiet. Okay? And another thing you can do, if you're still hanging out in figure 4A land here, just grab a chair, crack open a nice tasty beverage, and keep looking at the figure. That's right. Look at the subsequent shots. After shot one, after the black curve, look at all the other ones. You see what happens after the extra combustion from FRP disappears? What do we get? Pure signature. Pure signature. That's right. And what does that show in figure 4A? It's the pure determination of the omega metric is what it shows. And what is the omega metric? It's the parameter that is derived from the initial impulse slopes after shot one. That's all it is, dude. It's literally all it is. It's public. It's open source. Anyone can compute it. Anyone can test silencers and measure raw data and compute the omega metric. Anyone can do it. I promise. I promise. Okay? It's hard, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Now, what have we learned so far? Let's do a short recap because I don't want to go too ham necessarily. Now, what have we learned so far? Well, the suppression rating's high of the Hydrogen-L. It's a quiet silencer. It sounds nice. I'm telling you. You shoot this on a bulk gun and you're like, damn, son. I'm serious. It sounds good. Now, so we know that. We know it takes a long time for the gas to vent. So all that seems pretty simple, right? I mean, at a basic level, it's simple. All this complicated language and engineering parameters I've communicated in the article say a simple thing. The Hydrogen-L is an efficient gas trap. That's what it says. All right? Now, so why doesn't it hit the suppression rating levels of the CGS Hyperion? As tested, and the dead air Nomad L is tested, or even the at-ear rating of the Enticer L. Why is it a little different? Well, there are some interesting differences between the hydrogen and those silencers. Well, I mean, there's actually they're all very different, but there's some similarities, and there's one thing. One of the major differences is in the way the internal volume is utilized and the function of the baffles. And the Hydrogen-L, basically, I mean, this is not an exact description, so don't take this as gospel, but to put it simply, it uses step cones and it doesn't have extra pressure stagnation relief. So all of the other silencers do, really. They kind of have it. This does it, but it doesn't do it in the same way. And, the other silencers each do it in a little bit different way. The CGS Hyperion was actually first. Not in silencers to do it, but out of these four we're talking about, the Hyperion was the first implementation of this type of technology. And the Dead Air Nomad baffle was designed by designed by Todd McGee after the Hyperion was already in existence. Like, he already had seen the Hyperion. Right. And there's a lot of similarities, actually. And Nomad L is just it's a Nomad with extra baffles in it. So it's just a scaled Nomad. And I spoke about that in the Nomad L review way back when. And the Enticer system, it's an extremely simplistic but very refined coaxial design. And to this day, it amazes me still. Like, it's one of those, why the hell didn't I think of that moments? When I see the inside of an Enticer, I'm like, what? I'm like, that is so smart. And, I'm always like, why didn't I think of that? But then again, I'm like, I don't design silencers, so I try not to think about designing them. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. So, another thing to think about besides the differing internal geometric features of the Hydrogen-L, which, by the way, it's really light. I just picked it up. It's in front of me right now. I have the mount out of it, so I have it naked here. It's a bit smaller diameter than the Hyperion and the Nomad L. So really, what you're looking at here with the Hydrogen-L is a brute force conventional baffle refinement that throws gas traps at the problem, and it works. It just works. It's a brute force method, and it works. And it's tubeless, it's smaller diameter, and it doesn't have its complex geometry inside, so there's less material, and the thing's titanium, so what are you getting? Well, you're getting an extremely light full-size silencer. That's what you're getting, that's right. Yeah, and is the performance suffering a lot by giving up that complex geometry? I mean, you can argue in nickel and dime suppression rating points on the dose chart. But the reality is, it's pretty damn close, right? Guys, go to the rankings table. Let's do it. Why not? I had the rankings tab open. I'm going to scroll down to the table. What are we going to do? We're going to hit the ammunition. We're going to select supersonic 308 only. Okay, going to let it load. Boom. Then we're going to go down to the table. We're going to click on overall composite suppression rating. So sort it descending. That's right. Okay. Look at the top four. So the Hydrogen-L is actually it's beating the Enticer L at the muzzle. By more than by several points. So that's actually kind of interesting. And we talked about that when we talked about the Enticer L. So it's likely that bystanders they're going to have a somewhat lower hearing damage risk with the Hydrogen-L than the Enticer L. That's probably fair to say. At the ear, they're way closer, though, aren't they? Yeah, and in fact, the top three silencers are all neck and neck. And the Hydrogen-L is right there with them. I mean, it's pretty close. And so, you're hitting that 50 zone and at the ear, and that's what's really driving that composite rating up. Okay. So for a conventional baffle silencer, and when I say conventional baffle silencer, that's actually maybe not fair to say because it's not like a plain curved or straight cone. I mean, this is a little more advanced than that. But I'm going to say for the design complexity, it's killing the game. Now, what are some things you have to think about, though? Well, the length. And the silencer's long. It's long, dude. Direct thread. It's direct thread. When you put the direct thread mount in the back here, it's about 9.5 inches long or so. Same as the Hyperion, right? Now, the Nomad L and the Enticer L are in shorter than both of those, and with their direct thread mounts. So now, I mean, you're not giving up much with the Hydrogen-L. It's longer. It's as long as the Hyperion. I think these 4 silencers are all different. I think they all have different features and perform differently on various platforms. But on this platform, they're all 4 pretty close, and that's pretty neat, I think. Supersonic 308 is a really good silencer test platform because the 308 cartridge, God gave us 308, to shoot animals with and shoot targets with, and it's just such a great cartridge. So reliable and ubiquitous. And we even convinced the world to give us a NATO designation. It's great. We took over America. But seriously, I think it's awesome. And so it's cool that we have all this data for Supersonic 308, and I think the Hydrogen-L doing this well on it is a big deal. Now, to be able to unequivocally say, yes, these 4 silencers are pretty close in overall performance. The only exception being the Enticer L at the muzzle. I mean, that you may be able to tell a little more as a bystander because of that, but to be able to unequivocally say, yeah, these are all pretty close, that means they're all super high performance. And that's a pretty big deal. And I can tell you, and this is probably something that is going to cause problems, but I can tell you that these are the 4 highest performing rifle silencers in 308 I've tested that have been released. That is not by me, but by manufacturers. That like if a manufacturer is selling them and I've tested them, these are the 4 quietest. I can tell you that right now, dude. Now, are there other things coming? Well, yeah. I mean, there's always things coming. But right now, today, what is this? Yeah, July 19th, 2022. Right now, these 4 hit the state of the art when it comes to sound signature suppression on a 308 bolt gun. And for the Hydrogen-L to be in this group with the baffles it has is a huge thing, dude. I think it's cool. And now, a note about back pressure, okay? What did I say? Well, I told you it's a gas trap. Take a look at Figure 8 in the review. I'm going to click back on my tab here with the review. I'm going to scroll down past the member stuff. You owe it to yourself, PEW Science members. Please read that. Some paragraphs I have for you guys. Look at those waveforms. It's important for you to understand that. If you scroll all the way down past Figure 7, because it's linear, we don't like that. We like logarithmic scales. Let's go to Figure 8. Yeah. The Omega metric says specifically Omega 762. That's right. Now, the really great thing about Omega 762 is it's derived directly from these bolt gun tests, and it's all apples to apples here. It's a really great metric, and I will say, I mean, is this metric a perfect predictor of flow restriction? Probably not. Okay. Is it a pretty good relative metric? So far, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it gives you a pretty good idea. And right now, I can tell you, for supersonic flow, it's pretty good. Especially long duration combustion, it seems to be really tracking. And so if you're using the Hydrogen-L on a bolt gun, you're almost always going to be okay. And if you're using it on a supersonic semi-auto, you might need to be a little more selective with your tuning, the gun type, things like that, you know. Omega Zone 7 silencers can rock your world. It just depends what you're doing with them. I can tell you, the Omega metric does not discriminate. It does not play favorites. It's just like the suppression rating. It's literally objective analysis of the data and math. There's no human decision making in this. People tell me, well, Jay gave a rating. No. Jay didn't give any rating. PEW Science computed a number, and it's on the page. I didn't give anything. Nothing's given. These silencers have performance, and you can't give that performance or take it away. The performance is defined by the natural laws of physics on Earth. I cannot give anything to anybody. Okay, so I will say something about high back pressure silencers on bolt guns, and this is actually not as well known to many people, and it actually won't affect a lot of people, but it is worth talking about because I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. Now, okay, I'm going to preface this by saying I love using high back pressure silencers on bolt guns because they're quiet. So don't think I'm knocking Omega Zone 7 silencers on bolt guns. I need to tell you something technically that happens. The only time a super high back pressure silencer can hurt a bolt gun is if your trigger is adjusted really light and has a tendency to get triggered by shock loads. Now, for example, if you have a Savage AccuTrigger and you adjust it too light and you use a high Omega silencer, it may lock up your trigger safety mechanism, and then you're going to have to cycle that bolt to reset it. Now, other than that, for most safely adjusted triggers that aren't malfunctioning and trying to kill you, like the AccuTrigger, you can be okay. Okay, so this is kind of a niche problem, and it's probably more of a problem with the AccuTrigger, to be honest with you. It's probably set too light, and that's why it's going off with a shock. But I mean, another thing a high back pressure silencer can do to a bolt gun is foul the magazine and ammo more. I mean, it's not super horrible, but remember, kids, back pressure's in the barrel. Okay, you always talk about AR and back pressure. It's like, guys, back pressure still happens on a bolt gun, and the bolt gun doesn't even have a gas system. Okay, so you need to understand what's happening. You're increasing the dwell time, even on a bolt gun. You're increasing the time it takes for blowdown to occur post uncorking, and that happens regardless of what type of gun it is. You feel me? Dwell time happens on a bolt gun too. You just don't think about it because you don't have a gas system. It's the same thing. You feel me? Okay, so never forget we're looking at the silencer parameters, and the Omega metric is a silencer parameter. I think I said that last episode. I think, yeah. But yeah, that's all. That's actually all I had on the Hydrogen-L. I mean, I'm holding it right now. It's kind of growing on me, the looks of it. I don't know, what was the first one I saw like that? That was the polonium, right? Yeah, the polonium had the ridges here like the hydrogen does. And I don't know. I think it's cool. It's so light. It's a pretty good bolt gun silencer. It works real well. So I think I'm glad we had a chance to look at it. You know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this review, and I'm really, for the most part, I'm comparing it to the top tier stuff in the review, you know? And I think I said something in the review, which I think it's probably worth repeating now. I think this technology and this silencer's performance kind of bridges the gap between what used to be considered top tier and what's now considered to be top tier. Like, remember the Thunder Beast Ultra 9? Like, that was, I mean, it's a great silencer, right? But I mean, look at the ranking section. You know, there are things that are definitely beating it in performance now, and in sound suppression performance, and that's real. And when you look at it, you know I talked about how the top four are really close. I mean, when you get down to the Ultra 9, I don't know. I mean, the muzzle rating's getting kind of low, and you're getting to 30. It's like, man, That's not top tier, man. You gotta start. I think you gotta start getting close to 40 at the muzzle to be on a 308 bolt gun to get like spooky. You start to get spooky. When you get to around 50 at the ear on a 20-inch bolt gun 308, like I said, you're doing things that we actually, that I don't know, a lot of people probably didn't think that were possible before. And so when you look at a composite rating that's hitting the 50 zone or close to it on a 308 bolt action, you can be sure that you are suppressing better than many things in history. I mean, and I think because of the amount of supersonic 308 data I have on the website in the rankings table, it's absurd how much there is now. Like, I think it cuts through such a big cross section of the market. I think what I'm saying is not unreasonable, and I think it's important. So now we have all this context. You're really seeing, when I release data like this, you're seeing like, oh, that's like those silencers. And that's what I would say the Hydrogen-L is. It's like those silencers. It's a quiet silencer. Now, remember, I'm going to say this. I say it a lot. I haven't said it in a while, so I'm going to say it again just to remind you. I do not care what you buy. Doesn't affect me. I don't care at all. I don't sell silencers. I don't make silencers. I don't design them. So I don't care what you buy. Okay? So this is not an endorsement to buy this, but it is a statement saying it's doing really well in performance. Okay? Objectively. That's not even a subjective statement. It's objectively performing in the top 4, which I would say is pretty good. Okay? Okay. So, good job, Andrew, and Otter Creek Labs. It's a really quiet silencer. It has great features. Put a universal mount in the back. It's light. It performs. Proud of you guys. Thank you for trusting me to perform the work. I do appreciate it. Okay, let's move into topic 2. A time of 37 minutes and 33 seconds. Oh, God, that's right. I was like, what am I going to talk about? Then I looked at the topic. Topic 2. The FN SCAR 17S CQC 308. I had a play date. That's right. PEW Science SCAR Project update number 4. A short but cursory update. He's talking about the SCAR again. He's gone off the rails. I love people are now like taking notice across the internet, and they're like kind of freaking out. They're like, oh my God, he's obsessed with the SCAR. You know what? I'm gonna share something. And Joe texted me, Joe Godini. He was like, hey, so have you shot the Spec War 2 yet? I'm like, no. He's like, you're getting distracted by shiny things. You need to shoot my silencer. I'm like, no, that's not true, Joe. I'm not. It might be true, but also it's definitely an internal research project, and I needed some quality time with myself. So I'm going to give you a quick update. And I told you last time that some updates would be long, and some would be short, and some would be just right. Well, I think today is going to be a short one, okay, or a medium one at least. Let me get a drink of water 1 second. It should be a short one if I can exercise some self-control. So what I did, I took some time off this weekend. It was nice not to work this weekend, actually. That felt nice. Went out with the SCAR. First things first, zeroed the attacker 1 to 8 at 100 yards. Oh, hey, shout out, just really quick. Shout out to Night Force. They reposted my picture of this thing. They actually DM'd me. They're like, dude, we love this photo of the attacker in the ultra mount on the SCAR. It looks so great. Can we repost it? I was like, yeah, dude. Thanks. I told them, I was like, it's my first Night Force scope. I really like it. It performed really well. I used it in the really super heat like all weekend, and it was awesome. And they were like, that's good to hear. And I was like, yeah, thanks, Night Force. And they're like, thanks, Jay. That was awesome. So Night Force is nice. They're nice people. Anyway, So I zeroed this thing at 100 yards. Seemed reasonable. So how did I do that? And some of you, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail because some folks have never zeroed a scope before. I found it's weird. What I do, because I'm a little bit lazy, and this works, I put this little cheap laser bore sight thing in the chamber because I have this one. It fits like a 243 chamber or a 308 or 762, and it projects a laser dot. It's just like a laser pointer, but in the shape of a cartridge. So you put it in your chamber there. So I point the gun at something pretty relatively close by, far enough to where it's a little bit meaningful, but something I can still see, right? And then I see where the dot lines up with the point of aim in the scope, in the reticle, right? And when I did that on the SCAR, I was like, oh, my windage is off by some clicks. So I turned the windage knob until it's close to align with the laser there on the surface, more or less, and then I shot at the target. It was just to get me on paper, as they say, right? Now, the elevation was off, right? But I wasn't going to adjust that until I shot because, when you're shining something out of the barrel really close to the gun, that's close geometry, and it's not like far geometry, right? Because you got height over bore, so you don't get to use the small angle rule if you remember your junior high geometry. So bullets drop. There's height over bore with the scope. I usually adjust my elevation after the windage, with the windage is already close. Okay, and I've already shot it. That's what I do. You don't have to do it like that, but I found this is pretty quick. So yeah, shot at the target, Lake City M80 ball, adjusted the scope so I was grouping on or around the bullseye, done. It took me like 6 or 8 shots to zero the scope. Like it's, shooting like a 3-shot group, whatever. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, not a problem. Now keep in mind, I'm shooting the SCAR on the restricted gas setting with the OSS HXQD 762. So that's, if you can picture that, that's how I was zeroing the gun. Why was I zeroing with the silencer? Because silencers induce point of impact shift. Why? Because they add mass to the end of the barrel. All other things equal. Pretend it doesn't induce any point of impact shift due to misalignment or turbulence or anything like that. Pretend that's perfect. No matter what, if it has a mass, it's going to change the natural frequency of vibration of the barrel. How does it do that? The barrel is, you can think of this, if you're an engineer, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to lose some people, but it's okay. A really easy way to think about this, guys, is and I probably said this on the podcast before, you have a cantilever beam, right? It has a certain stiffness, right? The natural frequency, what is that? It's the square root of the stiffness divided by the mass, and you of course have the proper stiffness term for this system, and then obviously you have to use the proper contributing mass. But the square root of stiffness over mass is natural frequency. So if you change the m in the equation, if you change the mass by adding a weight to the end of the barrel, the frequency changes. Why is that important? Well, when you shoot the gun and the barrel starts to go wow, 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 and like oscillate up and down or side to side or whatever it does, when it does that and that bullet leaves that barrel, if that end of that barrel is in a different place because it's vibrating differently, well, that bullet's going to launch from a different location. Well, then what does that do? Well, it changes your point of impact. And that's why you get mass-induced point of impact shift. Okay, so that's why you zero with the silencer. So all these people are like, yeah, man, I want to adjust my gun so I can use it with the silencer or without the silencer. I'm like, why? Why would you ever do that? Just leave the silencer on it all the time. You're going to change your zero. That's so dumb. Just shoot it suppressed. What are you doing? Like, why would you shoot it suppressed? Like, that's loud. Okay, so that's that. 1 second. So yeah, Night Force, zero the scope, pretty fast. iBox is a little bit tight on 8X, but as long as you understand your gun and your cheek weld and be consistent and and how the eye relief gets tighter on 8X than it is on the lower mags, you'll be okay. I think that probably out of any trait of that scope, that would be the least awesome. But the scope is so good that for me, like, it's not a huge thing. I love it. It's so clear, and the reticle is so great. And I used the reticle, and it was like for drop, and it like later, and it was just a dream. Now, I was setting up targets. I was setting up steel. I had said, hey, now this is where I went a little off the rails. I knew I was going to do this. I said, hey, I'm not going to have that gas regulator from Mototech, that carburetor Gen 3. I'm not going to have it for a while due to back order. And I heard I'm going to have to take off my KDG rail to install it because it's a little longer than the stock regulator, so it won't fit. It won't fit unless I take off the rail, and then I install it and I put the rail back on. I was like, oh, it's going to be a pain in my butt. So I was thinking to myself, well, I have some time. I'm impatient. I'm going to mess with the gas orifice screw. So I had told you guys I ordered a bunch from Parker Mountain Machine. I also ordered the FN, the hardened steel screws from Midwest Gun Works. Okay, so I have the hex head stainless steel screws from Parker Mountain Machine, and I have the flathead hardened steel screws from FN, or Midwest Gun Works, was distributor for the FN parts. So I used my calibrated pin gauges, and I verified the orifice sizes of all the screws. Okay, so far, I think FN had one that was a little off. So far, I think the PMM ones are all in the noted spec. Now, I also decided to see what the factory screw was on the 13-inch barrel. Because remember, I changed the barrel on the gun when I got it. I changed it from the 16-inch barrel to the factory FN 13-inch barrel. I did not cut this barrel. I bought a factory FN 13-inch barrel. So that orifice size that came with the 13-inch barrel, we already knew it was going to be larger than the one in the 16-inch barrel, right? Why? Well, it has to be. You have to have a bigger screw than that. Why? Because you have less dwell time in the 13-inch barrel, right? Because the gas box is in the same spot, but you have a shorter barrel. So what does that mean? Less dwell time. What does that mean? You need to send more gas to the hole to make it work. Right? It needs a bigger gas port for the equivalent impulse to cycle the piston. Or, I'm sorry, to extra impulse to transfer through the piston to the carrier to cycle the carrier, right? Yeah, you guys understand that. Anyone who's familiar with the AR understands that. Same principle, more or less, here. So I took that screw out. I measured it, 0.062 inches. Okay, in accordance with my calibrated startup pin gauges. So that's 1. Let's see. Let me get my calculator. 0.06. What did I say? 0.062 inches. Okay, times 25.4. 1.57 millimeters. Yeah, 25.4 millimeters in an inch, right? Yeah, 1.57 millimeters. So, okay. I thought, okay. So I'm going to see if I can shrink this port. Had to. How much could I shrink it? Well, I figured out. I got, because I got the OSS on there. I'm like, well, how much can I shrink this port? Because the OSS isn't really adding back pressure here. It's like, turns out not much, actually. I could shrink it, but I couldn't shrink it much. Now, keep in mind, I'm on the restricted gas setting with the OSS. So it's going to behave like an unsuppressed gun on the restricted gas setting. And you know what? I was actually looking at this before I started recording this podcast. I'm not so sure the term restricted is the best word. It could be that it just vents more gas out of the front of the carrier. I need to call FN, and I need to talk technical with them, and also this armor that I met. His name is Joel. Shout out Joel. I know I owe you a phone call. He's a good guy. He has already helped me out with some really good information. And so I actually think I need to learn about this more because I'm getting very familiar with it. Like I told you, full immersion, right? I'm getting very familiar with the gun, but I'm also seeing kind of why it's so sensitive to gassing. And yeah. So what I did, I kept it on the lower gas setting, right? With the OSS. Why? Well, because it's going to behave like an unsuppressed gun. And I was thinking, okay, well, let me get a factory FN screw in my bag here that's 1.5 millimeters. That's supposed to be 0.59 inches. And what I did is I measured it, and it ended up being 0.58 inches. So we're good. Okay, so the 1.4 millimeter wouldn't work. And I want to say I tried 1.452 and it didn't work. But the 1.5 millimeter, the 0.058 inches did work. Okay. It did work. And I went from 0.062 inches port size to 0.058 inches, and it worked. 1 second. So you might be saying to yourself, oh my gosh, Jay, you were so crazy. You just tuned that SCAR within 1/100th of a millimeter diameter gas orifice size. Right? And you might be thinking, oh, you're insane. It's not going to be reliable. You're going to malfunction. That's not what you should do. Blah, blah. To that I say, relax. Okay, let's talk about it. Now, first of all, this is important. This is all with M80 ball ammo. Okay? Lake City stuff and foreign cheap stuff. So I ran Winchester, S&B, Aguila? What was that on that movie, Office Space? Not gonna work here anymore. I love that movie. It's so good. Aguila and some other no-name stuff I had, and I just a C, and it all locked back on an empty mag was fine. Second of all, just using all that M80 ball ammo, the way it's running now, it's on that restricted gas setting. If I need more gas in a pinch, I flip the gas block selector to 12 o'clock. Bam, instant extra impulse at your fingertips. And since I changed the orifice screw size to 4/1000th of an inch smaller, whatever I did, or 10th of a millimeter smaller. Did I say 100th before? Yeah, I think it's like a 10th of a millimeter smaller than it was. I'm going to be less gassed than the factory 12 o'clock setting, which we knew was slightly overgassed. Remember when I first shot this gun, it was it was with the OSS, and it was at the gas selector was at 12 o'clock. It was ejecting at 3 o'clock. I was like, that's not right. SCARs should eject at 45 degrees behind you. It should be at like 4:30. That's ideal SCAR ejection. Okay. So I was like, that's weird. So, I knew it was factory overgas, so now it'll be a little bit less than that. I was like, okay. So when you think about this, the 13-inch CQC barrel really wasn't super far off, was it? I mean, if you're tuning on the restricted setting, you feel me? Right? See, most people wouldn't do that, would they? Most people would put the gas selector on 12 o'clock, which is full open, and then change the gas orifice screws from there, right? Then, when they flip the switch to 10 o'clock, which is the restricted setting, they might not cycle, right? Because they're calling that the suppressed setting, which is actually sort of a misnomer, right? It's not really. So if I was writing a user manual for the SCAR, I don't know, maybe I'd keep the gas setting at 10 o'clock, and if you get really weak ammo or the gun gets so dirty or something happens where you need to power through stuff, switch it to 12, maybe. I don't know. Maybe then you call the 12 o'clock setting adverse. I don't know. I'm just, one could look at, I'm just kind of being devil's advocate, right? Yeah, you could do that. I'm just saying, like, that way if you ever need any more cycling power, it's there at your fingertips with the flip of a switch. Super easy. So that's what I did for this. Why? Because I'm using that OSS silencer because it doesn't add back pressure. I'm not operating like a normal suppressed weapon. Right? This is very niche. It's crazy. Right? Yeah. So that being said, I mean, that's actually a good thing. That's actually a good question. Would I do the same thing if I was tuning the gun for a silencer that had a lot of flow restriction? Would I do the same thing I did? I'm not sure yet. We're going to have to see how it shakes out. For now, basic familiarization of the SCAR by PEW Science continues. I mean, that's really what I'm doing here. I have to continue to understand the gun. Now, to tell you, after the gas was dialed in, I shot about 120 rounds or so. Okay? All the ammo types I mentioned, used all of those. Loaded up mags in my chest rig, went to shooting. I shot standing unsupported. Prone using the grip pods, standing off of shooting sticks, crouching resting on trees, standing resting on trees, standing bracing against the sides of trees. I did it at 100 yards, 200 yards, 250 yards, 300 yards. Shooting steel. That's what I was doing. And boy howdy, man. That was so fun. Initial impressions? You got to know you're dope for your 13-inch barrel with M80 ball. I think my hold at 250 yards is probably about a mil of drop, I'd say. It's about a mil. I haven't chronographed the ammo, so I really do need to do that, because I want to say it's probably hitting somewhere between 2,400 to 2,500 feet per second out of the 13-inch barrel and it's 149 grain M80 ball. So at 150 yards, about 250 yards, I think I'm about a mil low, give or take. So that sounds right. I think that's right. I think that's about what my dope was. So the drop's not crazy if you're 0 to 100, right? So I need to measure the velocity of the ammo, make a dope card, tape it to the stock. Like, I've done that. It's easy peasy. Now, I do like shooting it at 300. With the 1 to 8 ATACR, it's not super duper easy for small targets because it's 8x, right? It's the 8x limitation. But the scope's clear and it's fun and the reticle's so great. So, it can be a really challenge. It can be a challenger if you're shooting at a little steel plate, like one of those little round plates at 300 yards. It's not the easiest thing to hit with, but you can hit it, and when you keep doing it, it's fun. So yeah, and the more I practice with it, the better I'll get, which I like, and I had a lot of fun shooting the weapon. And there's really nothing like 7.62 NATO hitting steel when you've been shooting a lot of 5.56 NATO. You feel me? It's a different sport, man. 7.62 NATO hits harder. It's just more fun to me. I like it more. 5.56 is fun, but 5.56 out of a longer barrel is more fun. You feel me? 7.62 NATO, even in a 13-inch barrel, you're doing work. That's why I'm saying it's a different sport, guys. So I enjoyed it. I did some rapid fire for a mag. Burned the rattle can paint off the OSS for sure. You have to see that one. One thing I noticed, this SCAR on the restricted setting with a 13-inch barrel with a 1.5 millimeter gas orifice screw, the bolt runs so slow that I can easily outrun the gun with the Geisley Super SCAR trigger, which is kind of cool. Like, if you know the speed of the rifle, you can do double taps properly. But if you start to go crazy, you'll outrun it, and you'll find yourself pulling the trigger faster than the carrier moves. It's kind of hilarious when it happens, honestly. And actually, that's a sign of a soft shooting gun. I like it. Slow carrier movement is kind of my jam. This is just a personal preference. I like tungsten bolts for the MAC submachine gun, and I like this massive SCAR carrier and being able to control it. I'm starting to really, I like the ka-chunk. It's cool. It's a cool thing. And what I did last night, just because it needed to happen, and I'll probably do this a lot, I disassembled the gun and I pulled the bolt carrier out and I examined it. And one thing I'm looking for specifically is where on the cam pin path in the bolt carrier. What will happen, okay, if your SCAR is fired with a silencer that's inducing too much back pressure on the system, is that bolt's going to slam back into that carrier after unlock so hard you will eventually crack the bolt carrier. And every failure I've seen initiates at the cam path. Okay, and you can find photos of it online. Right, and I believe this will be the investigation point for PEW Science. This will be the kinematics investigation point, and we will zone in on the main time regime of interest, so we understand what the silencers are doing during this time. Okay, that's what we're going to do, and it's through this time window that we may be able to characterize the point in the silencer gas flow that's most influential to the system function. Okay, then we will unlock the mystery of the SCAR, and perhaps the riddle of silence. No, we might. Stay tuned, friends. That's right. This has been update number 4 of the PEW Science SCAR Project. Yeah. You know, guys, I don't know if you know this, but a short barrel 308 can pretty much do everything you need. Topic 3 at a time of 1 hour and 49 seconds. Wow. That's pretty fast. Thank you for all your patience during this busy time. I do mean it. PEW Science member questions, client requests, I try to get to those in the order received, and I appreciate you guys being patient with me lately. Now, I actually literally spent this evening catching up on some client proposals. So if you're a PEW Science client, or you're a new client and you haven't received a proposal yet, it is in the queue. I promise it's coming. Thank you for your patience. With regard to members, I owe you guys some welcome emails. I saw some new members join. Welcome. Thank you. Everyone thanks you. Welcome, everyone. Wouldn't that be cool if we had like people to do that? I think most of the pro member questions have been answered. If you haven't received a response and you're a pro member, stand by. Okay, I don't think I missed you, but there might be a couple that I haven't gotten to. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you, all of you. We're doing it. It's working. Have a great rest of your week. You know what you should do? You should go shooting. Go have fun and do it with silencers. Okay? I'll talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.